You don't get to look like Lee Sang, the South Korean 67 kilo weightlifter, by just weightlifting. Weightlifting, one word, as in the sport, rather than weight space lifting, two words. Snatches, cleans, squats, the bread and butter of the sport of weightlifting is great for getting you strong, great for speed, power, mobility, the sport we compete in. But to look like this guy, you need a diet of weight space lifting, two words. You need to perform weights for high repetitions with relatively high variation, close to failure. Lee Sang performs an enormous amount of what you might refer to as just straight bodybuilding. By the way, full visibility, this video is sponsored by the new bodybuilding focused program at Weightlifting AI. Train like a weightlifter, look like a bodybuilder. More info at the end. Oh, by the way, Rira Suzuki, the under 49, was also training in this session, so I've kept some of her snatches in too. This mixture of weightlifting and bodybuilding has worked out very well. In fact, Lee Sang has managed to maintain his numbers throughout his entire career due to a relatively high amount of bodybuilding training. This session, by the way, is from Worlds last year. So close to competition, and he's not doing so much bodybuilding, but his normal amount is just insane. We'll get to an example of just how much he really does shortly. He'll also be at the upcoming World Championships in September too, so I'll put a link to tickets below for you. These snatches, by the way, this style of catching and dropping on the first repetition, is a make. Weightlifters from around the world have very different standards for what they count as a made lift. Some have to stand up every rep, others have to sit under the first snatch and hold it for a second. Others, and mainly it's the Koreans, barely show any level of stabilization or upward force under the first repetition of the snatch before they let it go and perform the second repetition. Back in 2016, a fresh-faced Lee Sang showed up to compete at the University Games. Not looking quite as good physically as he does now, but still lifting huge numbers. A 138 kilo snatch, 175 clean and jerk, weighing just 69 kilos. You see, when he began, he was strong, he moved well, and through his youthful good fortunes, he was able to lift these weights with less muscle mass than he has now. But gaining muscle mass comes pretty slowly, especially when, as with someone like Lee Sang, you have to constantly focus on remaining at a relatively low body weight, rather than going through the typical cyclical periods that bodybuilders rotate through, of bulking and cutting. 7 years after that first competition, and we're here at this training session. Lee Sang this time snatched 139 kilos, up 1 kilo, and clean and jerked 175 kilos again. So 314 kilos rather than 313 kilos. During this 7-year period, Lee Sang has documented much of his training, and his focus on bodybuilding is like nothing I've ever seen from a weightlifter. Here's an example of a recent training session for you, in order of exercise. Strict press, push press, snatch, clean and jerk, wide grip rows, close grip upright rows, press ups, incline bench press, flat bench press. The amount of pressing in that session, 7 pressing accessory movements to accompany the 2 main exercises, and that's very normal for him. Machine bodybuilding work, curls, extensions, flies, rows, pull-ups, dips. These are just a few of the exercises that he floods his training with. And to be honest, I don't really even know if this is exactly the most beneficial way for him to train. I'm certainly not arrogant enough to say that I know that it's overkill for weightlifting, rather than accessories being the icing on the cake of weightlifting that most coaches describe the relationship between bodybuilding and weightlifting to be. This kind of seems like a bowl of icing with some cake crumbs on top. But at the same time, it's working pretty well for him. He's quite injury-free these days. He's able to take maximal attempts way more frequently than most athletes. And let's be honest, he looks pretty amazing doing it. Part of me wonders whether Lee Sang does more bodybuilding than he knows he needs to do. There are plenty of weightlifters who have made a point of saying that they like bodybuilding. They want to look good and they know it's not optimal, but they want to be strong and look great, and if it means that they aren't the absolute best of the best, then so be it. Anatoly Pisarenko, who, to be fair, was the best of the best, he felt this way too. One of the reasons I believe this could be the case for Lee Sang is that he doesn't actually even compete in an Olympic category. He could move up from the 67s to the 73s and compete in order to try to go to Paris 2024, but he doesn't. He'd have a way less severe weight cut, he'd certainly lift more, and based on the standard of the heavier 73 kilo category, there's a very strong chance that he'd make it. But he wouldn't look as lean, he wouldn't look as jacked, maybe he wouldn't enjoy it as much. There's definitely a temptation to assume that because an athlete is world class, they're willing to forego all other joys in order to focus purely on the sport in which they compete. But it's very often not the case. There's Pisarenko, as mentioned before, but within all sports there are elite athletes who have other focuses in life. It's possible Lee Sang is one of them. A lot of weightlifters out there want to snatch and clean and jerk, but they also want to look great doing it. And so we've actually added a new program into weightlifting AI that allows you to focus on bodybuilding alongside your regular strength training. We've scaled up the pressing, rowing, curling, look good exercises while maintaining all of the amazing auto-regulating weightlifting technology that has made weightlifting AI so successful and the athletes so happy. So if you want to train in a hybrid manner, a weightlifting bodybuilding athlete, well, now you can. Every program is still individualized to you and your lifestyle, and you can try it right now for free at Weightlifting AI with code 2-week trial. In the back squat, Lee Sang builds up to a pretty massive 240 kilos, which as a 67 kilo weightlifter is over 3.5 times his body weight, and he's hitting it for a pretty comfortable double. Lee Sang's levels of strength and muscle mass are absolutely spectacular. I'm not saying you'll ever be as good of a weightlifter as him, or even look as good as him, but if you want to try, download the new bodybuilding focused program for free at Weightlifting AI with code 2-week trial. The link to sign up is down below.